Hello chess friends and welcome to Zarov's Chess Channel and welcome to my series How to Spot Tactics in Chess. So we are continuing with our pattern recognition in which we create sort of a tactical ideas. We are recognizing these common positions which often lead to tactical possibilities in our own games, and today I wanted to talk about this so-called weakened pawn structure around your opponent's king. So basically, the most healthy pawn structure around the king is, of course, this type of setup in which your opponent has this h7, g7, and f7 pawn. But when the game continues in the middle game, your opponent, maybe in order to prevent some bishop on g5 ideas or similar ideas, plays the move h6, and it creates some positional ideas, but it weakens also your opponent's king. So this h6 move, which your opponent can play in the middle game, can be really sometimes a problem, because in some occasions we would have maybe a tactical possibilities with some sacrifices on h6, and we have also these types of positions in which we could have maybe put our queen here on g6, because f cannot take, of course, this queen, because we have a very nice pin by the bishop. That's all possible because you see black played with the pawn here on h6. So you see, although sometimes it doesn't seem that your opponent has troubles, this h6 in long terms could be a problem, and you should try to see your opponent's weaknesses around the king. So here is also a weakened pawn structure around the king. A good pawn structure around the black's king would be again here the setup with h7, g6, and f7. But with the h6 we have again this tactical possibilities, even maybe to take out with the queen here the pawn on g6. We have also an attack on the weak h6 pawn. If the king defends, then we can play maybe queen on h6. So many tactical possibilities around the king, but that's all possible because black has weakened really the pawn structure with these two moves, with the move g6 and h6. This is also in weakened pawn structure, because you see why black has now many problems on like squares. If we have a bishop here, you see we could have an attack here maybe on this h7 or this f7 square. So these are our main targets when you see this pawn structure around the king. Although the position is fixed, here the pawn structure is firm. This f6, e5, and g7 are really well connected. But you see, the slight core problems could be also problem in long terms, and let's see now a couple of examples how top grandmasters exploit these weaknesses around his opponent's king. So here's the game. You see, now we have the setup, this g7, f6, and e5, and here black has already weakened the king side, and we have a very nice bishop on b3, but the problem is that black has also the bishop on e6, which is challenging our bishop on b3, and we would love to exploit this really weaknesses around black's king. And how to do that, how to approach in such position, because the problem is that we have another problem also by black. Black doesn't have any defenders around the king. We have talked about this problem with this lack of defenders around your opponent's king, so you can watch the video also in this series. Here is a problem that white has a really nice coordination around black's king with the pieces, and here the best move, you can pause the video and try it. It's really hard to see because it's a monster move here played by white, and it's the move rook on g7. So see, after king takes on g7, now bishop on h6, of course the king has to retreat. The king, if the king goes here on h6, we will simply take out the rook on f8. So here king on g7, and now very strong move, knight on b6. Now the black has to react, so we have c takes b6, but now this is an important thing here, queen on g4, and this is now the position in which we take out this very important bishop on e6, because you see with this f6 move white has caused some troubles here on the like squares around black's king. So here king on f7 has to be played, but now queen on g7. We have king on e8, queen takes on f8, we have king on d7, but now rook on d1, we have knight on d4, bishop takes on e6, king takes on e6, c takes d4, we have bishop on e7, but now of course d5 first to check, king on d7, we have queen on g7, now queen on g8, but now d6, and in this position black resign, because if we take the queen, then of course we will take first the bishop with a check, and the king has to take, and then we'll take the queen, and black is completely lost here. White is up the exchange, and white has of course a completely winning endgame here. So you see, these dislikes were problems around black's king were too much to handle. With his f6 move, white found really nice tactics here, and black got really punished for pushing this f6 pawn. So let's see now another example. Again, here black has weakened already the king side with the move h6, and again it's really hard to see. Here's a gameplay by Viktor Korchnoi against Miroslav Filip. Viktor Korchnoi, one of the top grandmasters from the last century, he finds a really nice idea. He plays the move bishop takes on g7. And again we have the problem. After bishop takes on g7, knight takes on h6. After bishop takes on h6 and queen on h6, I just want you to go back here. I want you to see how important it was for white to recognize this pattern, because if black would have here a pawn on h7, this tactic wouldn't be possible. But because of this h6 move, this tactic is possible. So here after bishop on g7, we have this trade of the pieces on h6, and you see now, because black doesn't have this pawn on h7, this king on g8 is vulnerable to white's attacks. So let's see the continuation here. Bishop on e4 was played, now rook on e3. And if you try something like bishop on f3, then we have rook takes on e6, very nasty stuff here. After f takes e6, we have queen takes e6, then again the check, and now after queen on f6, simply taking out the bishop. Now the bishop is really dangerous here with moves as bishop on d5. If you play d5, then you get rook on c6. Now the rook and the queen will create some damage on the 6th rank. Here, if after rook on a7, you can play rook on b6. So here we can take the knight, and again we have the possibility to take out this d5 pawn. We have 4 pawns. Black's king is naked here, and white has again of course a completely endgame here. Here after rook on e3, then d5 was played, but now knight on g5, knight on e5 in order to protect. But now again, very nice idea, rook takes on e4, we have queen takes on g5, rook takes on e6, and now the rook and the queen are connected. Now after queen takes on h6, rook takes on h6, white managed to win some material. White is up 2 pawns and has of course again a completely winning endgame here. So basically what white has to do here is play rook on b6, and then maybe somehow attack this very weak d5 pawn. Again, it's completely weak. So let's see now another example. Again, you see here black pushed already this h6 and g5. Now the only natural pawn here is the pawn on f7, and we want to get rid of this very important defender here. So of course the best continuation here is knight takes on f7. So here after rook takes on f7, we have bishop takes on e5, and you see, because black pushed his pawns too far, he doesn't have any pawns that are defending the king anymore. So here rook on f6 has to be played, but now we have h takes g5, now h takes g5, queen takes g5, king on f7, and now queen on h5, again attacking the king. The king has to move, and now rook on rook on b1, rook on c6. The rook is trying to defend here, but now rook on b3, and in this position it's basically game over because the rook has very nice flexibility in the game. The rook can go here on the third rank and create again damage against the black's king. And you see now how important it was to recognize this weakened pawn structure, because now black's king doesn't have any pawns in front of him, and that's why black got crushed very easily here. So here bishop on e8 was played, but now of course rook on g3, first the check. Here after rook, bishop on g6, we have rook takes on g6, and now rook takes on g6, but now queen on a checked, and here after taking the queen, basically the game is over here for black. So see, it's really important to have pawns in front of your king, because here, well, it was really so-called naked king, I think, and the king was really endangered with his rooks on the third rank by the queen, by the very strong bishop on e5, and here white finds this very nice tactics on f7. So let's see now the last example. Again, you see this is now again a problem here for black. Again, black has weakened the pawn structure with this move h6. So here always queen on g6 is a possibility, because black cannot take. But here is the problem from white's perspective, that black has challenged already this very strong bishop on b3, and it means we have to be fast here. We have to find some tactics. We have to find a threatening move, because if this bishop is off the board, the position is really simplified, and with the bishop pair, black could be here really on the advantage. So that's why here it's a game played by Efim Geller against Lajos Portiš. Efim Geller finds a very strong move. He plays the move bishop on g5. So here queen on d7. If you try queen on g5, then you get very fast checkmated, because here queen on f7, and then we have queen on g8 checkmate. So that's why queen on d7. But now rook on d1 attacking the queen. Here rook on bishop on d6. But now again we have this demolition of the pawn structure on h6. Bishop takes on h6, and now very strong move queen on g6. You see the weakened pawn structure is really a problem here for black. King on f8, queen on f6. Now king on g8, but now again a rook lift, rook on e3, and with the preparation to play rook on g3, and there's no way for black to prevent here white to checkmate. So of course at the end of the video, here is one chess puzzle for you to solve at home. Again, we have this weakened pawn structure around the white's king. I think after this couple of examples, you'll find the tactical shot very easily, and it's a game played by Willem Henry Krause Pollock against Mikhail Chigorin. Mikhail Chigorin with the black pieces, and as said, I think you'll solve it very easily. Have fun, of course, while doing it, and really try to find these weaknesses around white's king. Try to find your sacrifice maybe, and it's really nice tactics. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Meanwhile, you can watch my other how to spot chess tactics videos from the series with some other tactical pattern recognitions in the middle game, and you can also watch my chess tactics and chess puzzles videos, in which I show you all of the possible tactical motifs that can happen in a chess game. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.